is this. When you're playing on the course, I think the toughest aspect of getting used to indoor golf versus outdoor is around the greens. Okay, especially chipping. All right. I set up the courses on here the same for everyone. All right. And what does that mean? So fairways, I give hard fairways because I like to have people get a rollout on their drives. All right. But the greens I set up as as medium. Okay. I think soft is a little bit sticky. The ball doesn't really roll out, and I think hard people wind up going off the greens too much and they want to kill me. All right. Stimp on the green, I usually set it like an 8, which is pretty flat too. The difficulty is when you're outside, you can look at it and judge it. Okay, you can feel it underneath your feet and say this is what, or you're putting a couple times and you know that the greens are soft that day, or they're running fast. Can't really make that judgment here. A lot of people like to bump and run their shots, their chips around the green.
Right.
My suggestion is not to do that because you can't judge the green.
Okay.
All right, when you get close to the green on a course, you'll see you can read the green, and it's going to tell you how far up above, or below you are on the pin. So that's going to tell you if it's going to be quick or not. All right, but on the green, it'll give you a grid, and there'll be balls rolling left to right or right to left for a green for the break, and then you'll be able to see if it's if it'll color code it to see if it's downhill or uphill. All right, so that's the way you read the green on here. All right, again, my advice is to flop it to a distance and have it roll out a little bit, as opposed to chipping it 2 yards and letting it run out 10 like your normal shot on the green, if that's what you're comfortable doing. Some people like to take a lob wedge and just flop it.
So let's say I want to practice just chipping 30 yards.
Okay.
If I want to go to the range,
Yep,
and if the feel that I
yards.
have in hitting into that, do you feel like that translates well to what I'm going to see outside?
So yes and no. The numbers, I would not dispute.
Okay.
Okay. The conditions, I would.
Yeah.
When you're out and you're chipping outside, how often does your club get caught in the grass? All right, or you hit it fat, or you blade it, or anything else. This does not change every time. Okay, you're hitting it off a pristine flat deck every time. It's cheating. I wish I had this lie outside all the time. But then again, most of the time I'm pretty comfortable hitting out of the rough because that's usually where I play, or first cut. Right? Sometimes when you're on a fairway, you're like, whoa, and then something goes wrong with it. This, you're on a fairway each time that you're chipping.
Right.
All right. So I would say the same thing on a course. If you're hitting out of a sand trap, some people will sit and blast it out like they normally would. And my answer is, guys, you're hitting off of this. All right. You're not buried in the sand. TrackMan will take away some of the shot. All right, with its numbers, it'll say 80% power, which means if you enter your 100 yards out, if you take that 100-yard swing, the way it gets even for this lie is it's going to take away 20 yards. So you either have to club up or swing a little bit harder. So you'll make the adjustment based on the numbers, but you're not going to make the adjustment based on this. You can practice on this, and you can practice on this. This will give you a better feel for chipping out of something else.
I get that 100%
Yeah.
with that, and it's just more of.
The answer is yes. It's going to go the approximate
Yes.
distance.
It is going to give you
all surfaces being
exactly
equal.
what you hit
Yeah.
every time. It's going to give you exactly what you hit. I'm just saying the translation between this and outside is the difference is this, not the numbers. Like what I do, like for me, TrackMan golf in my head, I know, like I'll play it a little bit differently inside. Anything around the green, I'm taking out a sandwich, and I know inside, 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes is like another 10 yards for me. All right, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. All right, 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards for me on a sandwich. Only because I know that I'm hitting off of this, and I know what my clubs do in here because TrackMan tells me. All right, so the numbers will be there for you, and I try to take that outside too. All right, the differing factor is what the ground looks like outside. But if you wanted to practice that, I would tell you to go to range. And then you can choose a distance and constantly hit at that distance.
Gotcha.
And you can go 20 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 30 yards, and see what, that's the beautiful thing about the inside part. When you can't, like when your vision is limited to what you're seeing, like outdoor, again, everything is visual based. If you're making your judgment on 10.5 feet, all right? So really what it becomes is, and this is what golf is, it's muscle memory. right?
Yep.
What's my 3/4 swing and how much distance am I getting out of that club at 3/4? All right, what's my full swing and how much distance am I getting out of that? And it's the same thing with putting. You have 10.5 feet to judge a putt that's telling you it's got to go 60 feet. So muscle memory is how hard am I swinging? You can't make that judgment here. You can, you can look at it on the screen, it looks beautiful, but it forces you into muscle memory, and I think that's actually a plus. And then it kind of, you bring that outside too. So you would, if you wanted to practice, a 56, and then, you want to chip it down? If you're using a 56 to chip it 35 yards, then you're gonna have a target area of 35 yards
Gotcha.
every single time.
Okay.
All right, and it's gonna give you this version over here. All right, same thing. Okay, and you can move that target around wherever you want, whatever
Okay.
distance you want.
Okay.
And that's working on your chipping game.
Yep.
If you wanna work on the chipping game on a course, take out a hole, plant yourself 35 yards out, 20 yards out, whatever, from that hole, and you can constantly hit onto that hole.
Got it.
But I will tell you, course is gonna affect your numbers, right? The conditions of the course are gonna affect your numbers. Sometimes that green's elevated, and it says 35 yards, but it's playing longer than 35 because it's 3 feet up, 4 feet up. It's gonna play maybe 38 yards. This way you're flat, shot analysis, you're flat, all right? There's no wind in it, there's nothing else, unless I play around with the elevations, which I'm not going to do. So this would be your target line for practice, to get numbers on your clubs, to get feel for, how far back am I going? Do I need to go further back for an extra 10 yards? All right, where am I stopping? That's a great way to practice it right there. That's what I would do for practice and chipping. And excellent point too, a lot of people walk in here with a full bag and practice. If you're coming here to practice and you guys are right here, and you got a half an hour, bring a club.
Yeah.
Bring 2 clubs, right? You're not practicing 5 or 6 clubs in a half an hour, right? Work on 1 club. Bring a wedge, bring a 58, bring whatever you want, and stay for half an hour and just do that for half an hour. And you can analyze something different. That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Okay, and so now if you're getting back out of the screen, you wanna go back.
Okay. Go back up to the menu bar up here. All these screens are touch screens, okay?
Okay.
Okay? Quick in. It says quick game even though you're in. It's not really a game. It's always going to keep you signed in until you sign out. Okay? So this is some of it. This is everything else that you can wind up doing. This, unless you guys want to start playing some of the games over there too. Okay? By the way, TrackMan Combine, I'll show you something about that. It's good. It's a test on a per club basis. It's a great way to test on a per club basis, and it's gonna change the distances within the club for you. Like if you pick 7-iron, maybe it'll start you at 165, and then the next target will be like 160. So you actually have to adjust your screen to the target even with the same club, right? So that kind of forces you to see how much am I really on that swing. But anyway, lots of other things that you can do. Okay? Feature is just that.
Okay.
I got you here 2 seconds, and again, I'm okay. I don't want to take up all of your time. If I put you on a course, I'll show you a couple of things on a course, and that's it. So you know, that's why, because I downloaded new stuff. This is the way I always have courses set up. It's always based on gross. All right, it's never going to put handicap in unless you want to put handicap in. All right, this is what I was telling you. Pins I always set up on easy. All right, I'm not going to have a pin on the edge of the green. You guys can get your ass kicked on a course outside. You don't have to do it inside, right? Mulligans I always keep on. All right, putting I usually set to, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I always have it set on auto putt. All right, if you're playing a course you want to kind of get through, most of the time that you spend outside and inside would be on putting. So I set it on auto 2 putt, which basically means, all right, once you get it on the green, and I set a gimme circle at 8 feet. So anywhere 8 feet within the pin, anything inside of that is an automatic 1 putt.
Okay.
Anything outside of that on the green is a 2 putt.
Okay.
Is it realistic? No, but it's going to move you along. Okay. First tee warm up just means that you can warm up on the first tee. courses I keep the same, right? I keep the wind on calm, all right? I can really crank it up if you want. It's gonna affect your shot. So there's lots of different things you can do to the environment. All right, like we talked about before. Fairway firmness, I set it hard. Greens, I set it medium. And a skip, I hit it 8, okay? This is just for me, this is visual stuff. I always like to see markers on, so you can take a look at it. Okay, you can also, over here, once you add your players, you can select your tee length, okay? Most of the time, TrackMan puts you at the tips. So adjust your tee length if you don't feel like playing from that far out. All right, then you would start. And you can adjust your formats too. You want to have a 2-man scramble, you want to have 2-on-2, you know, things like that, best ball. Kind of keeps things moving along too. If you want to play Stableford instead of regular golf. Okay, so this is the warm-up screen. So you can hit as many as you want for warm-ups and then you take it off. Okay, so this is what I would show. You can face the camera over here now. All right, real quick overview. It's got that blue tint because it's got fog in the morning. I guess it has this blanket over it. All right, so what does it show you? Let's start over here on the bottom right-hand side. This is a bird's eye view of the hole, okay? This is where you're teeing off, and it gives you a bullseye somewhere to aim for. So it's showing you 235 out. This is where you're aiming 235 out in the middle of this fairway. So TrackMan, depending on the hole and the length of the hole, usually gives you a place somewhere out there to aim. You may not hit it 235, you might be longer if you wanted to see, listen, I hit my drive, you know, I don't. But someone may sit there and say, I carry 287, where is my landing spot? All right? I'm just holding down the mouse and I'm moving it. I want to see how far to the tip of that bunker, put it over there. 249 to the tip, I gotta hit, you know, let's call it 275 to carry the bunker. All right, if I slice, maybe I move it over a little bit to the right. If I hook, maybe I move it over a little bit to the left. Anywhere you can aim wherever you want. All right, so that's the bullseye. And then it shows you from the bullseye how much further to the target, right? So overall, this hole is it's playing 357. All right, so this is it over here. A couple other things over there on the bottom right-hand side. If that's too small, you hit those arrows, it'll expand it for you, and you get a better idea. Okay? And what's around me? I'm playing on a different fairway, on a shot, so on and so forth. Okay? If you wanted to, you can take a look of the hole. Some people like to do that, just to see if there's water hazards that you wouldn't pick up on. Right? And it's going to bring you in through, and it's going to show you how it lines up playing. Okay? There's your landing spot. So what's around my landing spot, and then I have to carry water to get into it. So a quick color code on this. Blue is low, red is high, which basically means that the green is sloping from back to front, right? This is higher than this is. And that's just a real quick view of the green. It's kind of light colored. That's the bottom left. Okay, if you want to see what happens to go up, especially if you're close to the tree, sometimes that helps it. All right, the bottom left-hand side tells you everything else. Obviously, you're on the tee box, 357 to the pin, 17 inches below, where the down arrow means that the pin, at that point in time, is 17 inches lower than you are. Right, you're elevated, it's going to play a little bit shorter because the ball's going to carry further. Could be vice versa. All right, top left-hand side is going to show you who's up, what hole you're on. Power and spin, this is what we talked about. This is how TrackMan gets even, all right, for the course conditions. If you're on the tee box or you're on the fairway, it's always going to be 100%, 100% of both. Power is, don't worry about spin. Spin is, you know, how you're controlling the spin, if you're going to hold the green or not. All right. If you're in the rough or if you're in the sand, it's going to take away some of both. Like I said, don't worry so much about spin. All right, they bleed out on a shot. But power is going to affect your distance. All right, so the two main things that affect your distance on the course, there is no wind really. That would affect your distance, but like you saw that I have it on calm. All right, is the height and the power. Okay. Again, I say this, don't overthink it. If you're coming out of the sand or out of the rough, you're still hitting off of this, which is pretty darn nice. All right, but that will affect your numbers. That's it for a course. I mean, I can tell you about putting and stuff like that, but I won't get into that. I'll do a little course management with you when you're playing. I'd rather have you guys play instead of me talking the whole way through.
So 2 people, 9 holes, how long on average?
So, rule of thumb, a person can get through 18 holes in just under an hour or so.
Okay.
Then what are the factors that go into that?
I'm-
Are we drinking, are we eating, are we
Right.
talking shit, sorry, are we talking smack or things like that? How good of a golfer are you? Right, I guys that came down before, one guy played, a round in literally 35 minutes. That's because putting's off, because it's, automatic 2-putt, and it's ready, set, golf. You also walked out of your sweat. So two people, 9 holes, if they're playing fine, hour,
Okay.
It's good to know.
hour.